Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming and joining us today for Serverless Gurus talk on how to deploy a web app to AWS S3, featuring our very own CEO and founder, Ryan Jones.
Hello.
We're able to snag him away from all of the things that he has to do as he runs the whole organization. So thank you for taking the time and coming and doing this today for me and for everyone today.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the webinar that we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that we'll just jump straight in.
Yeah, let's jump straight in. I am head of marketing here at Serverless Guru. I'm just a general serverless advocate and also Japanese martial artist. As you can see at the bottom of the page, I'm Shugenja Mountain Warrior approved, thumbs up. And, I'm very glad to have Ryan here. And we're just going to jump right into it and get down to the development. That's why you're here today, and that's what we're going to do. So I'll let Ryan take it away.
Sweet. All right. So in this webinar, we're going to go through how to deploy a web app to AWS S3. So what that's going to look like from a high level is we're going to basically create an app. We're going to deploy it to Amazon. We're going to host it, and then we'll be able to actually see that URL live. And so through that process, you'll learn a little bit about AWS and also about how to do this for your own websites and your own code, whether it's React or Angular or Vue or any other web framework that you want to use. So first off, let's go ahead and just jump into the first slide here. My history, I am the founder and CEO of Serverless Guru. Serverless Guru is a cloud consulting company. We do stuff like application development, database migrations, on-premises to the cloud. Most of our work is focused around optimizing development needs, reducing costs, and being able to make people go faster. So that's kind of a core focus of what we do. Prior to being the CEO of Serverless Guru, I was a senior cloud developer at a company called Mode2. Before that, I was an application engineer in the Nike Innovation Engineering Department. That's kind of where my serverless career started. And since then, I've been nonstop, everything around serverless and what that means for application development on the cloud. I think now it's being branded as cloud native. So, and then right before that, I graduated from Epicodus. That was a code school here in Portland, Oregon. It started in February of 2017 and it finished around August of 2017. And then prior to that, I was doing data entry here in Portland. And then if you want to scroll back even further, I had a World of Warcraft business, which is kind of where I got my first taste of entrepreneurship because I was running my own business that mostly worked with people from New Zealand, military for the United States Army and Air Force who were working overseas. So my schedule was kind of flipped on its head and I would be up in the middle of the night. So I got really used to kind of that type of like grindy schedule. And then if you want to go even further back, like 5 years ago, I was working fast food in Texas. So that's kind of my journey so far. And, at the very top is where I'm at today. So just to give another high level overview of what Serverless Guru does, because the name can sometimes be deceiving when, you don't know what serverless means. So Serverless Guru, we build full stack applications. So this would be Angular or React. We build the front end, the back end, the cloud side. We optimize it, the full package. We also migrate applications to the cloud. So that would be, we take existing applications that are running on premises and we help them move them over to Amazon or Google, whichever one makes the most sense. We also train teams on cloud development. So what that looks like is we're basically working with teams and we're there in their office doing a presentation, doing a demo, similar to kind of what we're doing right now actually. And then we also train teams on serverless. So this is more deep diving into how to build serverless applications. And we mostly do this for clients who are coming from more traditional software development backgrounds. Things like Java Spring, or other more older architectures, which can be optimized for a serverless pattern, but you need kind of the tool set to do that. And then we also review application architecture. So if you don't know about that already, we have a call to action on our website where you can actually sit with the Serverless Guru team. We'll go through your application architecture, tell you how you can optimize it, do all those things, and it's completely free. So check that out. And then we also augment staff in one specific area. So if you want us to come onto your team, do backend development or front-end development or cloud development, we can come onto that team and we can help out just being a single contributor. So assign us tasks on Trello or Jira, and we'll report to whoever the direct manager is on that project. And from there, we'll just start pumping out work. So the first topic, the big topic for this talk is AWS. AWS, Amazon Web Services. The reason why this is the main focus of the talk is because Amazon is critical to building applications that leverage serverless because it's the most mature platform currently. And so just to get a high-level overview real quick, what is AWS? As we just went through, Amazon Web Services, the cloud computing platform that was created by Amazon. They were solving their own internal needs a long time ago. And since then, they've kind of rolled out a whole bunch of services using their thousands of engineers to then create stuff that the public can use to basically speed up their developments and also reduce overhead. How can it help your career? This is a really big one. This is something I like to harp on when I go to code schools. The big thing is that the market, there's not a lot of people that know Amazon Web Services that can also write application code. And so the way that it's kind of being branded now, other than cloud native, is as modern development. So if you're an engineer that's trying to get into a better job, or you're trying to transition, or you're just starting, learning AWS is a really powerful tool to have in your box, because what you can do is you can leverage your application development knowledge and skill, but then use fully managed services to move even faster. And so where would you start, right? Like, where do you actually start doing this? So I'm gonna skip that slide. You can start doing this by using the AWS Free Tier. So the AWS Free Tier is a 12-month free trial, which allows you to use all these services. And they actually have monthly limits where, you know, if you're building a very simple application, or you're testing stuff, or you're trying to learn, or you're hosting your own internal website that has less than even like 5,000 visitors per day or something, you can probably squeak by underneath the free tier and pay nothing. And so that's kind of the business model of AWS. That's why they've grown so rapidly, is because they offer all this power for pretty much for free, as long as, of course, you're turning it off after a certain amount of time. So the high market demand behind helping your career, AWS knowledge, very high in demand. There's paths to higher positions and higher salary. So that would look like moving from a regular front-end developer to a kind of hybrid cloud developer, where you're doing front-end and some cloud development at the same time. And there's also a full stack cloud developer that's front-end, back-end, and cloud. And all those things mixed together make a really strong developer. And if you have a couple of those on a team, you can do a whole bunch with a little. And that's kind of that's why so many companies are trying to hire for this, even though they don't necessarily know exactly what to hire for. This is going to be the next like 3 years to 5 years is going to be full stack cloud developers. Yeah. And then career growth opportunity in the cloud. So you can go from a full stack cloud developer to a cloud architect to some other senior cloud consultant thing where you're basically solving the needs of everything. And there's a lot of room to keep moving up that ladder. There's certifications to keep getting you validated in that knowledge. And of course, you can keep reaching out to the community and doing things like that. So AWS plus developer, what does that actually look like? That would be a cloud engineer, or as I call it, a full stack cloud developer. Salary range could be 100,000 as like an average here in Portland. You're going to find different ranges around the country, but this is just kind of a high level look at, like, if you were doing this, what would you get paid, right? So where do you start to do this? That would be the free account that we talked about. Also, how to build X with AWS. So the big thing that I try to focus on when talking to people that are just getting started is everything is just a Google search away. And sometimes people get caught up in that mentality of like, I don't have the knowledge, how am I supposed to do this? When if you just search how to build website with AWS, it's going to come back with thousands of tutorials for how to build a website with AWS, and some of them are only 2 minutes long. And so I think that's a really big thing, is that if you want to learn about AWS, it's Google the thing that you want to learn, and it's going to come back. There's millions of people over the past 10 years that have used AWS, and every question that you have has probably been asked 10 times, 20 times. And then the last one is prepare for an AWS certification. So to become AWS certified, there's a couple different options you have here. The very bottom level is the foundational. So this would be like cloud practitioner. And then above that, you have associate. These are going to be more your basic level certifications. I actually have two of these. I have the Certified Solutions Architect and the Certified Developer. And then above that, you have the professional tier. This would be Solutions Architect, DevOps, and looks like there's DevOps twice there for some reason. And then on the right side, you have the specialty. So this would be advanced networking, big data, and they've also added in a one for Alexa as well. So this may be updated as you're seeing this presentation, but definitely check, an up-to-date graph. The core thing to understand here is that there's a whole system for how you should move through this, and something to look at yourself. And then also we have kind of a breakdown here of preparation time. So when I actually got the developer associate, the preparation time that I had was like 12 to 20 hours. And this is like 12 to 20 hours of video. So this may be 40 hours of like pausing the video, taking notes, doing the quizzes, rewatching videos. But in just raw video time of going through a course, it was probably 12 to 20 hours. And the Cloud Guru course for the developer associate is about 12 to 14 hours long. But then there's YouTube videos that you can watch as well for free, and you can kind of offset that knowledge. So based on the changes that they've made recently, the Cloud Guru course is going to get you about 65% of the way. For the Solutions Architect, 18 to 30 hours, that's video time of watching. Exam tips for that, it'll get you about 60% of what's tested, and it's a lot of situation-based questions. So the big thing about this versus like a traditional college exam or something like that is that it's going to be asking you questions. You have a client in Madrid. They need you to create a web application that is able to scale at this limit. You have this pieces of knowledge. Which service or which combination of services do you use? They'll say, pick the best 4 options. And that's a really tough question. And you can expect that on the Solutions Architect as well as the Developer Associate. And then when you move to the professional ones, it's going to be pretty much every question at that point. So not can you remember how much maximum memory for this service or how much does this service cost, but using this service, what can you do or what can you solve for a customer? Past that, we've got exam tips. So I would say focus on the hands-on labs. This is on a Cloud Guru, Linux Academy, YouTube. The point of doing this versus just watching it is you want to be able to actually learn how to do this stuff yourself, because that'll make you very strong when you go to job interviews, or if you're transitioning to a new job, or if you're talking to a client and you're trying to convince them to do something. If you don't actually have experience doing it yourself, you're going to sound very much like you just copy pasted something and you're reading directly off the documentation, which is free, versus actually being somebody that they can trust. Ignore the pricing for each service. Doesn't come up that much in the exam. Read the forums on a Cloud Guru. This is a big one. With anything, you want to read about what other people's experiences were with it, because the more that you read about it, then the better you're going to be situated to kind of solve these problems yourself ahead of time, right? So you're going to be proactive versus being reactive, right? So proactively seeking out what other people failed on so that you can pass those parts which were difficult. And then read the FAQs on the services. So every service for AWS is going to have an FAQ page. It's going to go through exactly what that service does and the questions which people commonly ask. More than likely, and what I saw in my exams, is that those FAQs are actually going to be very heavily on the tests. And so if you know these ahead of time, it's another area that can offset those videos. And then finally, apply your new skills to a real project. This goes twofold. One, if you're at an existing company and you're trying to get a promotion or get more money, creating projects, releasing them under your GitHub, talking about it with your manager, or if you're applying, creating a portfolio that incorporates this, or if you're talking to a client and you're a consultant, being able to have, kind of something to point out to say, yes, we've done AWS IoT to build an Alexa skill that talks to a chatbot, right? I don't know if that's even a thing, but if you did it, you could put it in your portfolio. And if you got a client that's looking to build a chatbot that connects to Alexa, there you go. Certification resources. So you have a Cloud Guru, Linux Academy. I left the AWS certification login. Big thing here is I've got links here. You're probably thinking, oh, I'm watching a webinar. How do I actually click it? We can leave a kind of a link to all these slides in a resources section of this. So look out for that. Finally, the demo, right? So I try to keep the first half about the AWS certifications, and I'll kind of give you a reason why I did that. most of the time when I'm talking about AWS, this is designed for beginners, for people that are trying to move more towards serverless application development, not advanced developers who have already been in the AWS space or the cloud space for a long time, because they probably know the stuff that I just talked about. So the reason why I kept that at the beginning is because I want to, one, get you excited about it, give you a plan for how to do it, and then I want to touch on that final bullet point which I had, which was here, apply your new skills to a real project. So this is the real project part. The certification part, you're going to have to do that on your own. For the real project, we're going to be deploying a web app to AWS S3, and let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is close out this presentation, and I'm actually going to grab this terminal window here. So let me actually switch this back to my screen. So we're going to minimize it, open this thing up, and we're going to use something called Create React App. So let me actually do Create React App, and we'll call it something different. We'll say AWS S3 App. There you go. So Create React App is a way to actually, is it paused at the moment? Let's see. I can't tell if it's paused. 1 second.
Like showing your screen, because I can see that you're talking. Like,
okay, all right. I think I've got it now. Okay, perfect. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so right now what we're doing is we're going through and we're installing Create React App. So I'll kind of try to blow this up a little bit. So we did Create React App, and then we called it AWS S3 App. So what this is going to do is it's going to create a new folder which has a React App inside of it. So let's go ahead and CD into it. So we called it AWS S3 App. We can do an ls. Here we see that we have a README already. We've got node modules. We've got a package.json, a public folder, a source folder, and a yarn.lock. So what that all means is that package.json, that's going to manage our dependencies. Public folder is what's going to be, what's actually ls inside of it. This has our fave icon. This has our index.html and our manifest. And then if we ls on source, we can see our JavaScript files, CSS files, also our logo.svg. And so what we're going to do is run npm run start. Actually, let me go ahead and open this up in VS Code, and I'll do that so you can kind of see, you know, higher level detail of what these files do. So inside of the package.json, we can see our AWS S3 app is the name of this. We can see we've got 3 dependencies here. We have React, React DOM, and React scripts. And then underneath this script section, if you're not familiar with Node.js, these are different things that we can run through the terminal to be able to you know, execute commands, right? So if I open up a terminal here, we should be able to run npm run start. And what that's going to do is it's going to trigger this start property here, which is going to run React scripts start. And so this will allow us to actually spin up a local server that's hosting our code. So it should automatically open. Looks like it's thinking, and there it is. So all we're going to basically do in this tutorial, in this demo, is we're going to basically take this local app that's showing this React screen, and we're going to upload it to AWS S3 and host it underneath a URL so that anybody can go to it. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to stop on the React app part and switch over to AWS. So what I'm going to do is okay, so as you can see here, we're in the AWS account, and what we're going to do is create a bucket. We're going to call it AWS S3 App, and then we'll just give it kind of a, an ID here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason we're doing this is because every bucket name actually needs to be unique globally. So across every person's account on AWS, they all need to have a unique bucket name. So as you can imagine, after 5 years, 10 years of this being a thing, or I don't think it's been that long, maybe 5 years, the amount of free non-unique names has been dramatically reduced. So very common stuff, like you can't type in Google. Well, maybe you can. You can't type in Google and then be able to use that as your DNS name. But for us, we're going to use AWS S3 App 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to hit next here. We're going to skip these settings. Now there's this public block access here. It says block public access. We're actually going to click that off. We're going to allow all access to our bucket, and that is going to make our lives a little bit easier. This didn't actually exist a year ago. So what would happen is that whenever you created a bucket, you could actually then attach website hosting, and then everything would work. With this new setting called block public access, it's actually going to prevent you from actually being able to access anything inside of the S3 bucket. But now we can just click it off ahead of time, and it'll save us some trouble down the road. Finally, we're going to create the bucket, and then we will search for it. So in this bucket, we're going to do a very manual thing first. We're going to go into properties and click static web hosting. And so this property section here in this value static web hosting, this is going to give you an endpoint that you can go to view your bucket live. So this is your website URL. So what we can do is we can hit use this bucket to host a website. And because it's React and it's a single page application, everything gets routed back to the index.html, even when the route is not known, right? So in this case, this is the workaround for AWS static hosting, where you redirect all requests back to the index.html. And then from there, the index.html has routing capability to then route it to the proper page. So we can save that. And then now let's go ahead and view it. And we get 403 forbidden. So this access denied means that our S3 bucket is not totally public. So what we can do is go into permissions. We can go into bucket policy. And then we can actually, let's go ahead and generate a policy. So the type of policy that we're going to use is a S3 policy. We're going to say allow, we're going to say star. That's going to be everyone. And then we're going to say the action is get. So let's see if we can find it in here. Get object. And then we're going to need to copy the ARN. And then we can copy this whole thing back into S3 and save it. So let's actually confirm this real quick. Action does not apply to any resources in the statements. So luckily, we have a Medium article which actually goes through this as well. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to pull up the article where we actually wrote about how to deploy a React app to AWS S3. As you can see, we have a few articles on React already. So this one's called Deploy React.js App with S3 Hosting. So this article is actually a deep dive into everything we're showing right now. And it actually has screenshots that goes through pretty much every part of it. So if you're just now starting, I would definitely check this out post-webinar so you could run through it in full detail. It even shows how to create an AWS account, which would be up here. And it even goes into detail on things like how to install Node, how to get your project actually running, and things like that. The part that we're going to copy is this statement here. And then we're going to copy the ARN. I think I see where the problem came from, is that we didn't have the /* on the end. So I think our last policy was actually correct. We were just missing the /*. So that was the one piece that was missing. And the reason why we have this /* is because what we're saying is like, go to this AWS S3 bucket and then allow to get object, right? So you're gonna have objects inside of the bucket. And so you're saying / all objects. So you're saying anyone can access all objects. And that's what we need to run a website. So now what we can do is we can go back to that 403 forbidden, and now we get a 404 not found. So this means that we do have access to go to it. There's just nothing there. So now we have to take our website files, build them locally, then post them onto AWS S3, and we'll see what happens. So I'll close this stuff down, get it ready. Let me actually do a new share on this here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna run a build. So we'll say yarn build. So you saw me run npm run start. You can also run yarn start. Either one of those work. For create React app, it actually defaults to using yarn. And yarn is just a fancier way to install dependencies, the same as npm. So you can use either one, but for us, we're gonna use yarn from here on out. So now that we've built this, we get this build folder here. And the build folder has the fav icon, the index.html, it has some JavaScript files, and it also has our CSS files, more JavaScript files, and then some media with our logo. So this is everything that our project, this is like our production build for this thing that we just ran locally, if we pull that back up. So this is what we have locally running. Now we're gonna put this on the S3. So let me actually close down the local server. And then I'm gonna actually do this manually so you can see the full process. So we'll go into upload, hit add files, and then we're gonna go to code. And let me actually pull this up. You can't see my screen at the moment. Okay, so now you can see we're on the AWS S3 App part. What I'm gonna do is grab a couple of files here. We're gonna go into the build folder. I'm gonna grab all of these and upload. And then what we're gonna do is underneath the public permission, we're gonna grant public read access to all of these and then upload. For the static folder, we're gonna actually need to create a couple of folders. So the first one is called static. Underneath that, we're gonna have a folder called JS, a folder called CSS, and a folder called media. And then what I'm gonna do is go back to the Finder here, go into CSS, upload, add files, and I'm gonna add the CSS files. I'm gonna again give it public read access, and that should fire off. So now we have our CSS files up. I'm gonna upload the JS files now for JavaScript. And then finally, we're going to upload the media files. So let's upload these. And we're gonna choose grant public read access. Okay, so now that we have all this here, let's go ahead and go to that website URL inside of permissions or inside of properties. We're gonna go to static web hosting and then click this URL. And as you can see, we've got our website up and running. So this is great. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna actually show how to do this more in an automated way. So let me actually try to move this out of the way, my screen. Okay, so if we go back to the S3 bucket, we're going to actually delete all of our work. And then we'll go back to the website and we'll refresh it. And you can see immediately our website's gone. So now what we can do is we can use the AWS CLI. So I'm going to use the AWS CLI. I've already got it installed on my computer. If you don't have this installed, this would be the thing to go to the article that we pulled up earlier. That article will show you how to set up the AWS CLI, get your access key, secret access key, and then be able to upload to AWS to your account. I already have it set up, so I'm going to show you how to do it. The first thing we're going to do is go back to that article. And we'll go back to that article because there's a command in there which we're going to copy. So this AWS S3 sync command is actually going to copy our files locally to AWS. So let's share that now. So to do this, we're going to run this command, AWS S3 sync build, and then we're going to give it the bucket name. So we'll switch back to AWS, go to S3, and then copy the bucket name, which is AWS S3 App 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the very end of this, you can have named profiles. So since we are a consulting company, I have multiple AWS accounts that I actually do work for. So this one is our personal one, Serverless Guru. And this is a named profile that I gave it. You could call the profile anything you want. It could be called XYZ or anything else. And so now what we're going to do is actually sync it. And in the meantime, I'm going to turn off notifications. All right. So what you can see here is you can see a breakdown that after we ran the AWS S3 commands, it then uploaded all these files to our bucket, right? So now if we switch back to our bucket and we refresh it, you can see we now have all the files, including the file structure, the folder structure, without having to do any of that stuff manually. We didn't have to enable the read access. We didn't have to manually create the folders or do anything with Finder at all. It just basically uploaded it directly. So that's extremely fast. Now what we can do is go back to permission or to properties and then static web hosting and then go to that URL. And so you can see our website's back up. And so just to show this one more time, because it's good to see how fast this happens, we're going to delete it again. Refresh the page, it's gone. And then we're going to rerun this command. And I'm just going to refresh it. And we're back up. So in less than 5 seconds, we copied our build files locally, uploaded to the S3, and the second that it hit S3, within less than a second, it was up and the website was back online. So that's the power of doing this in an automated fashion, is that you're able to achieve results like that. Okay. And so I think for the most part, that's the presentation, that's the bulk of the demo there. So what we're gonna do now is, let me actually stop screen sharing. We can switch back to camera view, and then I'll actually open up the slides once more. Okay, let me share that. All right, perfect. So that was the demo. Hopefully you got a lot of value out of that. The core thing to remember is that if you have your own React app or Angular app or Vue app, it's as easy as what you just saw. I ran one command in the terminal and I uploaded my site to AWS and I had S3 static hosting, so I can actually go to that URL. In the future, you can actually take that even further and you can even set up HTTPS or do your own DNS name. So like mywebsite.com or serverlessguru.com, which then goes to that bucket, which hosting the HTML and the JavaScript files. One thing that I want to touch on is that we have a Medium publication at Serverless Guru. That's where I actually found that article for how to deploy React.js to S3. We also have one for Angular, and we also show stuff deep dive tutorials into AWS, serverless application development, as well as Firebase and Google Cloud. This is the article about how to deploy an Angular app to AWS in seconds or 10 minutes. This article is going to go through pretty much exactly what we just did with React, except the commands are going to be different, and it's going to walk you through step-by-step how to do that. And then we have the one that we looked at during the video, which is deploy React.js app with S3 hosting. And then finally, if you're interested in getting more of a video format of all this stuff, check out our Serverless Guru YouTube. What you'll see is introductions into serverless, stuff about serverless plugins, how to deploy the React.js app to S3, as we just talked about, creating a website using AWS AppSync, as well as tons of other stuff. So definitely check that out, and we're posting more stuff as we go. Then finally, on our website, we've got training.serverlessguru.com. This is going to have our serverless introduction, serverless plugins, as well as more course material, which we're working on currently. So the course that we currently have in the pipeline is called Serverless REST API, and it takes you from the very beginning of knowing nothing about AWS to then doing very basic stuff in the console, to then expanding out, creating multiple Lambda functions, to then automating it, and then adding a CI/CD pipeline, adding incognito authentication so you can actually have login and register and sign up and all that stuff. And then finally creating a front end and wrapping all of it together. So that course is being worked on right now. We've got about 5 hours of content currently, and we're looking at releasing it at the end of August. So keep in mind there. And if you want to get posted about it, definitely sign up for our training site and get started with this serverless introduction. And then you'll be prepared for that serverless REST API course. Finally, thank you for coming. This is part of our team. We've got Jan Stoneman, Natakon Jones, and then me in the middle. And then if you're interested, Serverless Guru is hiring front-end developers, back-end developers, cloud developers. If you got something outside of that spectrum which you think could be interesting to the company, definitely still give us a shout. You can find me at ryan@serverlessguru.com if you want to send me a personal email. Otherwise, linkedin.com/ryanjonesirl. And yeah, that would be the talk. I think Josh Proto is going to jump back on.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you so much, Ryan, for taking the time today and sitting down and walking everyone through this tutorial and everything. And for all the viewers, for everyone who's watched, if you're interested, I would take Ryan up on any of these offers. If you're interested in training, we have free resources, whether it be on the YouTube channel or on our training. On our trainings.serverlessguru.com. You can access that through our website. If you've been sitting through here and you've realized, you've bought in, serverless is really important, but I don't know if I'm the one who wants to build any of this, sign up for an architecture review and our team can walk you through sort of your options as far as that goes, whether it is using us to help you with your serverless needs or figuring out what fits your situation best. So if you need any of that, feel free to go into serverlessguru.com, reach out to Ryan, reach out to myself on the website, and we will, get you hooked up with whatever you need. Thank you so much for listening and watching today. And I think we'll all look forward to the next training that we have.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, take care.
Hopefully you found value in it. And let us know as well on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or anything like that, as well as, of course, reaching out if you are looking for a job or looking for consultants. So, yeah.
Great.
Sweet.
Take care.
Bye.